Restaurant Unstoppable. Inspire, empower, and transform the industry. Before we start diving into how you evolved, I think it's worth kind of getting into a little bit of the history of the Cheesecake Factory.
Sure.
David Overton, the founder of Cheesecake Factory, 80s, right? Early 80s?
78.
78, so late 70s. Is when Cheesecake Factory was formed. What's the origin story?
Yeah,
is David still around?
Yeah, David is.
Yeah.
He's still the chairman, CEO. I see him often. He's a great mentor, a great friend. I dropped some food off at his house last week because he gives incredible feedback for one of our projects, and he's one of the most important people in my life. His mom found a cheesecake recipe in a newspaper. They were baking in Detroit, and I'll sort of make this a little bit short, but people loved it. And then they moved out to California. David went to school in San Francisco. They were baking cheesecakes in a sort of factory out here for a bunch of restaurants. People loved it, and they were at a point where they're like, how do we turn this into a real business?
So it started as a wholesale company where they're providing cheesecake to restaurants.
That's right. And then David, they opened up a restaurant in Beverly Hills. It's still there today, and I think in 1978. And they put a little card in the window that says not open until 2:00, and there was a line around the block, and it was David put some food in with his mom, and but they really just wanted to feature the cheesecakes because they already knew the cheesecakes were a giant hit and people loved them. And they had like a salad bar and some other things, a few burgers. The original menu's it's quite cool, and they just from that day on had lines around the block. And people came for the cheesecake, but then David really figured out he knew how to make food that everybody wanted to eat. And this wonderful woman named Linda Candiotti that was involved. It was like so hospitable and so full of culture, and they were just all over the gas, sweeping out front, and they were sort of hitting on all the things that people value about the restaurant business.
So at what point did the Cheesecake Factory start to scale?
I think you're giving me a little bit of a history lesson here, which I wasn't prepared for, but no. I think they had the first one, and then the second one was I think maybe 4 or 5 years later, and then they got to, I think they went to, was it Redondo Beach, Marina Del Rey, and then they won in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And Woodland Hills was up there too. And but I think they went public at four restaurants.
Yeah, if I'm sitting across the table from David right now and I'm interviewing him and I'm asking him about the evolution of the Cheesecake Factory, key pivotal points of just growth and lessons learned, if he was sitting here and I asked him that question, what would he say?
He would say, get better every day.
Yeah.
Put one foot in front of the other. Get better every day. It's the food, stupid. And don't forget that, and take care of your people and make sure that people are your greatest resource. And his standards of service, excellence, and the treatment of his people are absolutely unparalleled.
Give me an example of something that he did that is just like a perfect example of going above and beyond what's expected to do stuff for you, beyond giving them BMWs.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a million stories.
Maybe a personal thing that he did.
Oh, there are million stories and a million untold stories that people don't even know about. But look, the BMWs were a big deal. There were stock options for general managers. There were stock options for executive kitchen managers, or the equivalent of an executive chef. There was unbelievable growth opportunities for people to grow. But in the growth, it's like one thing to get to become a general manager, but development, training, mentor programs that just you can apply to business and life that were so well thought out. The quality of the people in the business. So you were just going and working next to all pro people in every position every day. The push for excellence, the awareness of how people are feeling, managing the gray, which I think is a lost art in the restaurant business.
What do you mean by managing?
Well, it's like you can't be black and white in the restaurant business. Like, give me an example. Like a sauté cook it's worked for you for 30 years. Who's incredible. Who's the Michael Jordan of sauté cooks, has given you 30 years of excellence and has one bad day, and maybe says something to a manager that's offensive, but repairable. We would wait if that sauté cook was like, I'm quitting, or we wouldn't fire him or her. We would wait if they were going to like, I'm out of here. I'd be in the trunk of his car going, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere. You've given us 30 years of excellence and you had one bad moment. Let's work this out. Let's go resolve this. And we were really, really good at managing the gray, because in the end, and I've heard this 1,000 times on your podcast, it's a people business. And to be a great leader, You got to be a great mentor, a great developer. You have to be direct. You have to be honest. You got to be nurturing, caring. You got to be a little bit of a therapist. But our culture was, I mean, if you want to say, Eric, Don, what's one word that why the Cheesecake Factory is an evergreen company? It's the culture.
Yeah. Where was the Cheesecake Factory when you joined? What was
We
your
were
scale?
probably at maybe 20 or so restaurants.
Where are they today?
They're at over 250 restaurants.
Okay.
And then they have restaurants in the Middle East, Latin America, and China. And then they acquired Fox Restaurant Group, which is Sam Fox Restaurant, like Flower Child, North Italia. Incredible brands and an incredible partnership. So now Cheesecake's running those brands too.
Yeah.